The Phoenix versus the Hunter, a fight that easily could have taken place within the story, and one that I find pretty interesting. Now, I will preface this by saying I'm not referring to later monster form Garou or Cosmic Fear Garou, but rather the Garou that fought Darkshine. And for Phoenix Man, we'll be using his current state in the manga rather than his pre-retcon iteration. We'll start with Phoenix Man because I believe he's one of the most underrated characters in the entire series, especially out of the Monster Association. His first feat upon resurrection is completely destroying 5 of Child Emperor's irritating barriers with enough force left to dent the shield that Child Emperor was holding and launch him into a wall. This is an insane feat, as later on they get an extremely impressive feat, particularly against Homeless Emperor. At the start of the surface battle, Homeless Emperor states that he is no longer hindered, charges up a giant spirit bomb of bioenergy, and throws it at Child Emperor. This orb is intercepted by Dogman and blocked by the irritating barrier. Now, while the barrier is destroyed, it still withstood the force of this blast and wasn't completely annihilated instantly, and even the Dogman is still intact due to being protected by this barrier. This is extremely impressive because later on in the arc we know that a character like Vomited for Ugly, who is able to clash with Darkshine, gets absolutely dismantled by a linear bombardment from Homeless Emperor of much smaller orbs. Now, I know a lot of people aren't gonna like that, so I'll add some consistency to Child Emperor's feat with a couple of statements. Now, we know Brave Giant was meant to fight Orochi, being the Monster King, and they assumed the Monster King would be the strongest monster, of course, which means that they would be preparing for something stronger than Elder Centipede, and they've seen Elder Centipede rampage twice, once against Metal Bat and Metal Knight, and the second time against Bang Bomb and Genos, so they would have full knowledge of its capabilities, and Child Emperor especially, who had been studying for the monster raid, would definitely know. This makes even more sense when you put into context this statement of Child Emperor saying that Phoenix Man surpassed his expectations, and his expectations were already set beyond Elder Centipede, meaning that it makes sense for him to be stronger than Elder Centipede. This is even more consistent when you take into account Phoenix Man stating he is number 1 among all living beings and completely omnipotent, because he's seen EC fight, and not only has he seen EC fight, but he would have knowledge on EC from Garou herself. And it doesn't really make sense for Child Emperor to not be prepared for an Elder Centipede level threat, considering he has unparalleled intelligence. With that being said, how does Garou compare to this? Garou is extremely impressive, even in his half-monster state, as he's able to take on characters like Royal Ripper, Rover, Orochi, Garou briefly, and of course, most importantly, Darkshine. Obviously here we're going to be using Garou's feats against Darkshine, as that's when he's at his peak. Garou in his fight with Darkshine gets massively more impressive as the fight goes on, going from getting blitzed, being overpowered, and blatantly not being able to deflect Darkshine's attacks, to being able to outspeed him, equalize the force of his strongest attacks, and even damage him, and his durability scales massively above his attack potency, so that makes the feat just that much more impressive. Garou in this fight becomes even more impressive as he's able to learn the Crossfang Fist and use it by himself, whereas Bang and Bomb need to collaborate to even use this attack, and this is what allows him to damage Darkshine. Unfortunately, this isn't good for Garou, as his best scaling caps around Darkshine level, while I've already established that Phoenix Man scales far above that, scaling to the likes of Homeless Emperor, who absolutely destroyed Vomited for Ugly, the same Vomited Ugly that was able to clash with Darkshine. This gets even worse when you consider that Phoenix Man may scale to or above Elder Centipede, the same Elder Centipede that's stated to be above Bang, and Bang later on in the Monster Association fights a stronger Garou than the one being used here and the one that fought Darkshine. So in terms of both strength and speed, Phoenix Man should scale vastly above Garou, and even if we didn't grant him that and we said that Garou was somehow relative to the Phoenix Man, this actually wouldn't really help him, because if Garou was able to defeat Phoenix Man would simply resurrect and become even stronger, potentially with more hacked out abilities. And if we really want to go there, Phoenix Man could potentially revive people like Hellfire and Gale, and that would make the fight even more one-sided. In conclusion, I'm gonna take Phoenix Man here. I think he's just too strong, too fast, and too hacked out for Garou in this form to handle. And even if Garou could defeat him, he would simply resurrect and become stronger. and then curb stomp Garou.